women in traditional marriages tend to be less happy in their marriage than men are.
What up, gents? Welcome to TSG Uncut. I am your host, Sean C. And there's a woman that's on this show that's going to talk about why, in her expert opinion, that women are choosing divorce at a higher clip than men. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed, where we come out with more content just like this. And with that being said, let's get started.
A new study shines a light on how romantic relationships break up. It finds married women are more than twice as likely as married men to take the first step towards divorce. But the same isn't true when non-married couples split up. Heidi Halverson is Associate Director of the Motivation Science Center at Columbia University's Business School. Her latest book is No One Understands You and What to Do About It.
It's such a great title.
Yeah. Thank you.
And maybe that has something to do with divorce.
You know, I think it does.
Yeah, Heidi, thanks for being here. I just got married, so when I read this, it kind of made me cringe a little bit. Explain it. Why are women more likely to
I'm
file?
married too, it's okay. It turns out, I mean, it's really interesting. We've known for decades that women in general were more likely to be the ones, about 2/3 roughly of marriages end because women initiate the divorce. What's interesting about this data is it shows that in very committed but non-married relationships, where people are living together, they have children, actually that's not the case. It turns out that those end about 50-50, male initiated or female initiated. Also, what these researchers learned was that women in traditional marriages tend to be less happy in their marriage than men are. But again, that's not true in these non-traditional relationships where actually they tend to be equally happy.
Strange, I wonder why not.
And I think, and it's just my opinion, that those couples tend to be more 50-50 in the split because you're talking about men don't feel that same sense of, I'm not gonna say they don't feel the same sense of commitment. It's a difference between getting married for a man or being in a long-term committed relationship. I find it disingenuous that modern women today want men to continue to be traditional and do things in a traditional manner, but they themselves want to have the freedoms that come along with living in this modern society today. Men pretty much feel and want the same things that men in the past have wanted. The difference being is that women have changed. Women have changed the game.
Well, what all of the evidence seems to point to is that while society has really changed a lot in terms of gender equality and men and women, actually many men and women going into marriages feeling like they want to have an equitable relationship, the tradition of marriage comes with a lot of baggage. It comes with ideas about the roles, right? With a lot of traditions, a lot of ideas about what the role of the wife and the husband are. Yeah. And
You're
seems
suggesting that women, married women, have more responsibility, less independence, and less happiness.
I mean, in a nutshell, there's even data that shows that simply the division of chores is a major source of happiness and unhappiness in marriages, and those predominantly go to women, even when women work as long as men do.
Women have a problem with the division of labor within the household, as you saw by the numbers, and even in cases where men are actually doing everything that a woman expects, women still choose to get divorced at an 80% rate. Now, I did a video on this channel the other day where a woman had a good man who was taking care of the bills, was a good man, a good father, but she didn't want to be a housewife. She didn't want to fold clothes, as she stated, right? When we talk about this division of labor, nothing gets spoken about how men fix the little things around the house, get the cars washed, cut the grass, right? Nobody talks about the man's labor in terms of the upkeep on the house, but yet you never hear these women come on here and talk about that. No one ever talks about the man's responsibilities. And again, even when men do the things that women claim, this unpaid domestic work, even when they do that, women still find themselves unhappy and they still leave those men. So what's the excuse at this point?
So what it seems to be the case, though, is a lot of these marriages that are failing are ones where the couple did actually start out wanting equality, but then falls into the roles, maybe.
So how do we prevent this?
We talk about equality and equity in relationships, and most women still want masculine men. But they will fool themselves to think that I'm not happy because I'm not getting my way. Women generally are not happy in situations where they get their way, which is why I believe that the men who capitulate to their wives, to these women, still end up in divorce court, fighting for their financial viability and their lives.
I think in a nutshell, the way you prevent it is being very conscious of it. And that's something a lot of couples don't do by starting out their marriage, really explicitly talking about who's going to do what and continuing that conversation. As the marriage evolves, responsibilities change, work change, keep talking to each other about who's doing what so that that resentment doesn't build up. There are many happy marriages out there.
You have to renegotiate the terms at certain points along
Over
the
and
way.
over again. That's how to stay happy. It can be done.
I believe it can be done, but it is so much harder today with all of the distractions and all the different expectations. When it comes to most men, our expectations are pretty clear. This is why it's so important as a man, when you get in a relationship with a woman, that you need to lay out your expectations in the beginning. If she isn't on board with the expectations that you have, I'm not saying that you can't capitulate to some of the things or you can't agree to certain things that she wants. But in the long run, if you don't lay those expectations out as the man, as the leader of the house, if you are a leader, you have to clearly lay out your expectations in the beginning.
One of the things I thought was really interesting is the study found is that married people are healthier, but not necessarily happier.
Some of that, I think, up until recently had a lot to do with healthcare. Married couples have easier access to it. But there's also a sense in which married couples do tend to push one another, certainly compared to single people, to go to the doctor or get things checked out
Yes,
when
I get
they
that.
need to.
I get that a lot.
Yes.
Is some of this just a numbers game? I mean, marriage is and divorce are no longer carrying the same weight, perhaps taboo, that they once did. Is it just that women can pull the trigger more easily these days?
You know, it is certainly the case that women can pull the trigger more easily these days, and that also people feel they have more options and don't have to get married in order to have all of those things. But the ratio has stayed about the same. You know, going back to even 1950, 1940, it's been 2/3 of the time women initiate the divorce. So there's something going on there, and I think it's worth it for married couples to really have, as I said, a lot of open discussions about who's doing what to make sure it's fair to both parties and that resentment doesn't build, and then you can have a happy marriage.
That graphic showed that women who aren't married have a higher self-esteem. That kind of goes in the face of the fact that a lot of these women are on antidepressants. You know, they're drinking more, they're more depressed. This self-esteem that is supposed to be higher among single women, maybe that's because this inflated sense of self-esteem. And you have a bunch of women who have not gotten any type of help for their trauma. They have not gotten any type of help for the things that is going on with inside of them. This inflated view of self is what I believe is giving to these numbers that women have higher self-esteem. Why do you think that women today are more likely to choose divorce? Let me know based upon what's been going on with you. I want to hear your stories down in the comments below. Check out the video at the end of this one. And until next time, live your best life.